Hello, hello. Mic check 1, 2, mic check. I believe we are live. Hello, hello. Professional podcasting over here. We are live. What's up? What's up? Checking channels here, making sure we're all good. And let me... Cool. Yes, someone said there was a glare. Hold on. I'm gonna fix that real quick. There we go. Is this better? There we go. All right, all right. We're going to get started in a second here. Happy Warrior Wednesday. It's April 2nd, 2025. Hopefully you conquered your day today. Got two interesting topics to go over. Decided to fill you in. Probably a lot of you missed a lot of the announcements this morning and also the aftermath, so excited to fill you guys in. And also get your feedback as well. That's one thing I'm really excited about, is getting your feedback on all the things that happened today. Because a lot has happened. Cool. Yeah, we are live. Say what's up in the chat. If you're here with me live, let me know where you're hearing me from. We're streaming on a couple new platforms today. From LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So we're covering a lot of the bases today. And I'm excited to have you here if you're listening to me live. Again, let me know who you are, where you're streaming from inside of the chat. As I'm getting straightened up here. Wait for a few more people to pop in here. I'm gonna start off with my intro to fill all y'all in. If you're new, if you are familiar with my face, if you're not, welcome, Warrior. This is the Warriors Circle, your gathering space in Infitnite, the first ever science-backed fitness fantasy RPG. I'm Walt, your 5-star master wizard, founder, and lead designer with over 15 years of transforming lives through physical combat, nutritional alchemy, mental intellect, and RPG gamification. Here we share insights, ignite transformations, and unlock the secrets to becoming the ultimate warrior. Are you ready to level up your body, mind, and spirit? Then join us at our new domain that we just acquired, which is fitnessfantasyrpg.com, where you can create a bronze tier account for free to gain access to tons of free-to-play loot and our waiting list for pay-to-play game realms. Now let's dive into this week's topics. We got two big topics that we're going to be talking about this week. One of which is going to be Infinite related. We're going to be talking about our class system. Very similar to RPGs. If you've played games like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, World of Warcraft, any RPG typically would have some sort of class-based system. And we're going to share our class-based system. At Infinite, we have almost 9 classes, and each of them represent training styles. So this is one way that we combine the fitness and gaming aspects, and I'm excited to share what our class system is and share a lot more information with you guys so that you can train your way when you're going to the gym or training at home. Second topic is probably the biggest topic what everyone's talking about today, and that is Nintendo Switch 2. A lot of people are excited. I will say a lot of people are very, very excited. And then there's also a handful of people who are very skeptical and really caught off guard with the events that happened after today's reveal. Again, we'll dive a little bit deeper into that in the second half of this Warrior Circle here. So, again, which topic are you most excited about? Classes, Switch 2? Let me know in the chat. And let me know as I go over these topics what excites you the most. So let's dive in to some fun stuff. Our classes. If this is their first time seeing Infinite, one of the big inspirations of Infinite are games like Final Fantasy. Their class-based system was a huge, huge inspiration for me. Elder Scrolls, World of Warcraft also was really, really big into classes and guilds and things like that. But our class-based system is a little bit different. It combines a little bit of the best of all of those games. And we have a whopping 9 classes in Infinite. 9, count them 9. And the way that we were able to kind of expand to this many classes is simply because of the representation and the symbolism of each one of these classes, which is through training styles. So there are so many ways that you can train in the world of health and fitness. A lot of people gravitate towards the bodybuilding training style when they go to any type of box gym. They go to the dumbbell rack. They, sit on a bench and they do bicep curls, presses, lateral raises, whatever that may be. And a lot of that type of training is muscle isolation. So basically, you're isolating particular muscle groups, and you're primarily doing that to elicit some sort of hypertrophy, which is the process of building muscle and building size in your muscles. So in Infinite, we actually have that as a class, and that is our Barbarian. Our Barbarian class right over here is representative to bodybuilding. Shout out to our bodybuilding Barbarian Wizard Jasper, who is our bodybuilding champion, first place champion in classic physique and in physique training. So shout out to him. And he is also, him and I are collaborating, working with our another warrior, Alex, who is competing in classic physique as well. And so far, we are about 2-3 weeks into prep, and we have about another 9 or so weeks left, and he is on track. So shout out to Warrior Alex as well. And we're excited to kind of share his progress in a warrior circle later on once we get closer to contest time and stepping on stage. But the Barbarian class was technically the first class that I trained as. And the Barbarian class is both for beginners and also for the advanced as well. There are a lot of advanced principles that really require a number of years of training to really master. And one of those are simply mind and muscle connection. Really how you basically understand what area of the body that you're trying to target and being able to target only that particular area while you're doing a particular exercise. It's very easy to just move your body and just kind of move weight around, but it's very difficult to isolate and contract the only key areas that you want to and need to in a particular movement to maximize the benefit of that particular exercise. And that's where barbarians really thrive. Barbarians really, really thrive in, again, building that mind and muscle connection, being able to isolate particular areas, which is why it's such a great beginner friendly class. You can literally just take a beginner and then we could just teach them, hey, here's how you isolate the bicep in your bicep curl. Here's how you focus just on that muscle and not on your forearms or lifting with your shoulders or moving with your back, right? There's so many ways that you can kind of teach beginners how to incorporate resistance training into their day-to-day and just basically turn it into a weekly lifestyle. Resistance training is universal amongst all of our classes. So don't feel like, hey, if I lift weights, it's going to be, only for these particular classes. No. Even which I'll go into our next class, which is our Rogue, all the way to the left here. Our Rogue is primarily specializing in calisthenics. Now, the reason why I say calisthenics is, number one, it's not only bodyweight training. Calisthenics, it can and should progress via progressive overload, which is continuously challenging your body with resistance. So think if you're doing a bodyweight pull-up, think it's a weighted pull-up, right? You have to continuously either progress in the amount of repetitions that you're doing in that exercise, or you must either add resistance to that in order to continue to progress. So calisthenics is, again, a very, very foundational and fundamental class, because even as human beings, like even since we were babies, we were technically training in calisthenics. We had to learn how to walk, we had to learn how to crawl, we had to learn how to squat and move our bodies. So in a way, it's like kind of getting back to our fundamental foundational movement patterns in a way. But the Rogue really kind of takes it to the next level when you're focusing on more technical type movements and really trying to incorporate more difficult exercises that require a lot more stability, a lot more body control, and again, a lot more muscular strength and endurance in some movements. So the Rogue class is underrated. This was really, really popular during 2020. So when gyms were closed and people didn't really have much to do, they couldn't go to the gym, right? Most people didn't have home gyms. So the primary way for people to kind of get their exercise in and continue to train was via calisthenics and bodyweight training. So the Rogue class, in my opinion, one of the most underrated, and some of the best physiques as well are built via calisthenics training. So it's not only barbarians, even though barbarians primarily focus on aesthetics since they're focusing on bodybuilding. That is not always the case. Now, next class I want to go over is the Olympian. Let's just continue down the line here. So the Olympian is our sports performance class. So look at this as just the athletes. Athletic type training can go through so many areas. It has a lot of depth, but fundamentally there are universal principles when it comes to all sports, right? There has to be some sort of conditioning, which is training your cardiovascular system, your heart, plain and simple. Most of these, most sports that you would think of, think soccer, football, baseball, volleyball, badminton, anything really, is going to require some sort of conditioning and cardiovascular training in order to be able to continuously move your body. right? Another universal aspect is the intellect portion, the mental aspect. The mental aspect of training is honestly the most neglected and underrated aspect outside of sports. Um, I think a lot of sports coaches and performance coaches really drill mindset into the sports experience. But for some reason, not a lot of people do that outside of it. And this is where this class excels. It's not only going to test your mental capabilities, but it's also going to develop it and take it to the next level. Think, high level sports performers. There are many warriors that came through Infinite that are first place winners, champions, world record holders. There's so many individuals that require a high level of mental capabilities when it comes to emotional intelligence, when it comes to learning, when it comes to really challenging themselves continuously for years and years and years. So the Olympian class is so broad, it's so versatile as well, but it's very, very specific. And this is a very difficult class to choose in Infinite, especially if you are not training in any particular sports and you're just trying to train like an athlete. Again, it could be very, very difficult, especially if you've never played a sport in your life. So that's really, really big. And now we're going to have our Operation Sorceress, Olia, on over here. Say hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, welcome. I was just going over the Olympian class, talking about sports. This is actually a perfect segue for you. Um, what sport did you play?
So I grew up a swimmer. I was swimming competitively from about 8 years old to 16. I also dabbled in sports like tennis, golf a little bit. I started out with rhythmic gymnastics when I was about 3 years old. I skied, I snowboarded. So I did a lot of different stuff, but my main competitive sport was swimming.
Nice. And how much was the mental component part of that experience?
Huge, huge, huge part. I think of any competitive sport, mindset is key, and I wasn't always the best there. And I feel like if I was able to dial that in at a younger age, um, I could have performed even better.
Likewise, it was always about just showing up and just moving my body and trying to have fun. But sports, in order to be excel in it, requires much more than that, right?
Absolutely.
But we got five other classes. We went over the barbarian, the rogue, now the Olympian. Now let's go into the elf class, shall we? Now, the elf class kind of evolved. This previously actually was our goddess class. But the elf class now is really not just focusing on physique development, but also body control and mobility, and just really being able to control and move your body. Think of it as like a combination of like the aesthetics of bodybuilding with the mobility of Pilates. So being able to, you know, focus on your physique and develop certain aspects of your physique, but also being able to move your body fluidly and not be blocky and immobile like some barbarians can be. So the elf class, I'm excited in the future to really dive into the elf class a lot more deeply, especially once Infinite 4.0 comes out. If you don't know a lot about Infinite 4.0, I highly, highly recommend you dive into our library at our website where we've been dropping lots of teasers on what's to come. So if you want to really dive into the ultimate update for Infinite, head over to our library at Infinite. But the elf class again was previously our goddess class, and we made a big switch just for thematic purposes. A lot of lore building, really diving into Dungeons and Dragons and other elven lore, like especially in Lord of the Rings. We really wanted to um, keep our classes grounded and not really dive too deeply into the cosmic and the gods. Because once you get into goddesses, then it starts to get into murky waters when it comes to abilities that are just not human and natural, you know? So, what do you think of the elf class? You were a goddess, and then you switched to the elf for a while.
Yeah, honestly, it was one of my favorite training styles. Um, this class allowed me to kind of focus on what areas I wanted to build. And as a lady, I appreciate the hourglass shape. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on as well, building a little bit of my back and my arms so that I can have a, V at the top and then have some well-developed lower body as well. So glutes, quads, hamstrings, that kind of thing. I really enjoyed it. I love training, strength training, and I also like to be like you said. It's the mobility part of it is like Pilates essentially.
Hmm.
Um, it makes you be able to have full functionality, have full, be svelte and be quick and be fast, but also have muscle mass. So you did a better job describing it than me, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I also was an orc. Now I am transitioning from dwarf to barbarian, and all of them have a little bit of overlap, but different nuances too.
Yes, yes. It's funny how you jump straight into the orc. Because that was going to be the next class I wanted to go over as well. But before that, I wanted to provide a link to our updates for Infinite 4.0. I dropped it in the chat if you guys want to check it out. The link is in the chat. Yeah, it's funny. It's just like in RPGs, right? Like when you choose your class and you create your character, there's not you don't just create one character, right? Sometimes, you create your character and you have a good time, and then you're like, okay, I want to experience something different. I want to try something new. And that's exactly what happened with Olia is she, started off as the elf essentially, and, really kind of gained all the positive benefits of being an elf and learn new things. Then she decided, hey, I really want to get super, super strong. I was about to curse.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to curse. Uh, so she decided to become an orc. So that's going to be the next class over here. That green, scary, monstrous person right there. That's the
Being
orc. And the orc specializes in powerlifting. Now, I think a big inspiration for choosing the orc is just, again, maximizing strength output. The strongest individuals on the planet have performed powerlifting or are powerlifters. Even world's strongest man, like think Thor Bjornsson from Game of Thrones, Eddie Hall. There's a lot of strong men that are lifting Atlas stones and logs and moving trucks and all kinds of crazy feats. They train the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. And that's the fundamentals of the powerlifting orc. And I think one of the biggest inspirations is being in the environment where other people are training in this training style. I think that's really, really important is if you're going to a place where everyone's doing bodyweight training, it's gonna be very difficult to get into powerlifting training and orc training, right? You might have to change gyms or change locations or work out with somebody who does that type of training in order to really stick to it. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult to learn new things by training as the powerlifting orc. So, Olia, what was the big inspiration to switch from elf to an orc class?
so I decided that I wanted to be my strongest self. So I said, okay, I've been working on physique goals for a while. I want to transition and I want to get really, really strong. And when I was on an orc program, I literally was the strongest that I've ever been in my life. So that was amazing. A really cool feeling.
And describe, can you describe that feeling of like feeling strong? Because I think that's important, especially for a lot of women. Um, there's a lot of strength in not just how much you move weight, but also how that affects your mind. So dive a little bit deeper into that.
Absolutely. So it was, I mean, as women, as people, we have life gets really hard and we have to be strong to take on everything that gets thrown at us. Honestly, when I was going through the org program and building my physical strength, I was having that ripple effect of strength go through all aspects of my life, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I felt strong, and I actually carried that with me through today. So I just got like pumped up every time I was going to the gym. And I was like, yes, here's another chance for me to work on getting stronger. And it was so kind of, I shouldn't say kind of, it was very empowering to go in and say that, hey, today I'm going to try to be the strongest that I can be. Um, it let me put aside any kind of more vain goals, so to speak, and focus on something that can help me in all areas of my life. And honestly, the stronger you are, that also helps your longevity as well. And Walt can definitely speak to that. Having more muscle mass, having more strength has a direct impact on your health span.
100%. Yeah, the biggest benefit of training for strength is getting over the mental fear of hurting yourself, for especially for beginners. Once you overcome that, then you start to feel your body kind of changing and growing, and you start to move weight, more and more weight, and you start to do normal things in life, and it just becomes easier. Becomes very addicting. And I think that's just exercise in general. Is once you feel yourself progressing, and you feel yourself progressing outside of working out and exercise, and you just overall feel better, it becomes a lifelong addiction. And I always say that it's the healthiest addiction on the planet. And then there is also the idea of like, are addictions in general healthy? It's like, well, if you really break it down fundamentally, it's that overwhelming drive and that irresistible temptation to continuously go back to doing something, right? Whether that's serving you, benefiting you, or deterring you, it depends. But when it comes to health and fitness, there are very, very, very low points, and very, very high points. I'd probably say the only downside would probably be some sort of injury, right? Injury, or really kind of facing some health issues, right? But exercising and health and being addicted to bettering yourself physically, mentally, or even nutritionally will help prevent a lot of those negative issues. So, all that being said, work class, very, very beneficial for a lot of people, very, very intimidating for a lot of people as an entry point. But with proper instruction, proper strategy, and just overall support, and just a great environment with good people, you can grow and you can make that process much, much easier. But the last two, the dwarf and the monk, there's a big reason why we left these as the last two. These two classes had some massive, massive changes recently in the past month or two. The dwarf class is now our strongman class, and the monk class is now our functional training class. Before, the dwarf was our functional training class, and we did not even have the monk. So, big reason why we made the monk the functional training class is plain and simple. We are partnered with the Pain Free Performance Specialist certification. This is the number one certification in the world when it comes to pain free performance, which is basically optimizing training based on the common presence of pain, dysfunction, and injuries. Plain and simple, it's about mastering your body, preventing injury, and focusing on longevity. And we needed a class to fully embody that. Even though the dwarf class was kind of cool when it comes to making that the functional strength training class, we believe strength is a universal mastery. All of these classes require some sort of strength, right? Physical strength and overcoming resistance and gravity, which is why the dwarf didn't quite fit the functional aspect. Also, thematically, theme wise, with like lore and fantasy, the dwarf is pretty blocky. Like he's pretty short, he's stout, he's blocky, and he's not really known to be super mobile. So we really needed a class to embody that, and that's where we came up with the monk. And just the monks in general, just masters of movement, masters of the mind, and man, I just got a shout out to Dr. John Russin. That bald head, I had to shout him out. I had to really symbolically have an avatar, a female avatar version of him as a symbol because he is one of my mentors that completely changed the trajectory of my health and fitness lifestyle completely. So this I paid homage to Dr. John Russin with having the monk because most monks do shave their head. So that was also a little deep cut theme right there. But yeah, the monk and the dwarf. So strongman and functional training. Olia, you messed around with the monk. Tell for a long time. Tell us about your experience in functional training.
So, like I was saying, there was a little bit of overlap from the monk with the movement patterns because everything is based around the 6 foundational movement patterns. So, you're going to see that throughout the different programs. The monk had me doing a lot of, honestly, I feel like my stamina was at its peak through training as a monk, if I had to boil it down to one word. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed doing the monk workouts, training combat workouts, so to speak, with the other folks in the dungeon. So that competitive aspect of it, I really
Hmm.
enjoyed as well. It was technically the dwarf while I was doing it because we just made that transition to the monk. Um, but yeah, that one was a lot of fun. The people made that one fun.
Oh yeah. Plus, it's when it comes to functional training too. It's something that you can continuously work on and develop over time, especially as we age. It's going to become so much more important to train more functionally. Because once you start to, get some aches and pains, knee pain, back pain, neck pain, you're wondering, hey, maybe how I'm working out, maybe how I'm training, isn't really benefiting me how I think it is. And so it's a great opportunity to kind of open your mind to different way of training. And then the strongman class, I don't really have much I can provide as far as a strongman class. This is our new class. This is actually this is a completely new training style for me. I've dabbled in strongman, but I've not yet trained as the new dwarf fully for many years or anything like that, like the other classes. So I'm hoping in the future, either end of this year, possibly next year, that I actually get into a little bit more of that strongman style of training, especially since I'm focusing on my monk training currently, building some functional strength. So, but wait, oh yeah, I think we missed something. Did we? There's one class that I don't think we covered.
Which one was that?
Right in the smack dab in the middle.
The dragon class.
You got it. We missed out on the dragon class. Now, last is the last but not least. Now, the reason why is smack dab in the middle and last is the dragon class is a combination of all of our classes. It is the ultimate jack of all trades. It is actually the class that everyone in the dungeon are playing as. Simply because everyone in the dungeon, they are shaping their fitness journey. They are taking elements of each one of these classes and putting them together and shaping their own path. So you can switch between each one of these classes and also challenge yourself with each one of these classes inside the dungeon. And I think that's the coolest part is that you're not tied to one training style in the dungeon. You can explore different training styles. You can incorporate elements from the rogue, the barbarian, and the monk and put them together to kind of craft and create your own training style. And that's essentially what the dragon is. And if you want to experience that yourself, feel free to join us inside of the dungeon. If you like to have variety and novelty and be able to kind of train and learn new things virtually every single workout session, this is the class for you. And the dungeon is the place to accomplish that and receive that guidance and support and also flexibility to be able to customize with pre-built templates and things like that that you can put together and use so you don't have to come up with something completely from scratch. You can kind of use our templates and customize it to your liking, to your skill level, and your particular goals as well. So that's the dragon class, and this is the nine classes at Infinite. So we can go much more deeper into each one of these individual classes. We will in the future, especially as we launch Infinite 4.0. We're going to be diving a lot deeper into these individual classes. But for now, this is just, again, a brief overview of all 9 of these classes. I'm surprised I was able to do this in such a short time. It honestly could have been much longer going into these 9 classes. But that is Infinite's class system. If you want to learn more about our classes, again, feel free to visit our Infinite library. The link is in the comments, and we'll also provide one in the description and from wherever you're watching this live. But let's get to the elephant in the room, shall we? There was something that occurred today, and that was the Nintendo Switch press conference. So the Nintendo Switch 2 was announced today, and it's coming out June 5th. I was, I guess, lucky enough to be chosen to not only watch the presentation, but be able to provide professional feedback. I can't name from who or from where, but I was able to watch this, but unfortunately, I had to wake up very early because it's Pacific time over here in Washington, and the event was at 6 a.m. So that was fun. But over here is as you can see, if I can actually get to the page here, we got a lot of new stuff. So this is the Nintendo Switch 2. Olia, what is your experience with Nintendo so far?
Oh, it's my favorite console to play on. It's easy. I can take it wherever. Plane rides, amazing. It is like my anxiety helper aid when I'm on the plane because I don't like flying at all. Um, when I'm get a few minutes to chill, I'm on my Nintendo Switch. All the games that I like are on there, so I love it personally. Big fan.
I'm a OG Nintendo player, so I played first console I ever had was the NES. I got that when I was 3 years old. I had just about every single Nintendo console up until I think the last Nintendo console I owned was the Wii. The Wii was the last one, so I went up from the NES all the way up to the Wii. At the Game Boy, GameCube, Super Nintendo. I had the N64, the you name it. Nintendo DS, everything essentially. But didn't have the Wii U or the Switch. I got the Switch for Olia, and I've dabbled and played a little bit, but I didn't really own. It wasn't really mine. I wasn't really playing on it regularly like her. So Nintendo Switch 2. So what are the highlights? Big thing, 1080p screen. You can also have 4K resolution when you're connecting it to the dock. So that's really, really big. There's HDR support, so that's high dynamic range, which means the color is going to pop a lot more. Think of in movies, a lot of movies are in HDR, and so a lot of the vibrant colors really pop on the screen. There's a variable refresh rate. So basically, they'll be able to run at higher frame rates, up to 120 frames per second. The Joy Cons that you attach to the side, the controller, are magnetic and more durable and sturdy. So you don't have to worry about either it getting detached or it breaking. Also, there are a number of games coming out for the Nintendo Switch 2, and that's Mario Kart number one, classic. I think there's every single Nintendo console that's came out has had some sort of Mario Kart attached to it. Starting from the N64, I believe, is when the first Mario Kart came out, if I'm right. I know you don't have too much experience with Mario Kart, right, Julia?
Not really.
Yeah, Mario Kart. Yeah, you haven't gotten into Mario Kart yet.
Not yet.
Yet. But other than that, there are a whole bunch of new additions and new features that they added to the Switch that were really requested by a lot of the fans. And that's like party chat and really being able to chat with your friends and engage with your friends. There's like this in picture video that you can see of your friends while playing, which is interesting. In my opinion, the way they demonstrated it was terrible because it was all laggy. Like when you're looking at your friend's video or in their demonstration, it was just super lagging, super slow compared to your own screen. So it was a little jarring. So imagine your screen's going 30 frames per second, so like kind of like normal, and then their screen's like 15 and lagging. It was really distracting, really, really distracting. Whether that's going to be the final product or not, who knows? I don't know. But I gotta say, as far as just the hardware, the aesthetic, I mean, they got the aesthetic down, I think. I like the black design. It's bigger screen, 1080p, and then you can connect it to a TV and get it in 4K. I think that's really attractive as well. And it's still portable, and it's basically a lot of what the Switch 1 did great, but better, right? And I think that's really what a lot of people were asking for is the Switch 1, but better. But how much better is the key question, and does it justify the cost and the investment? Which that's what we're gonna end this on in a moment. But basically, to access all of the kind of community and chat functions just by hitting the C button. And basically, this is where you can chat with your friends, get on video calls, and do all that kind of stuff. They call it game chat, which is pretty cool if you have a lot of Switch players that you want to play with, that own Switches that want to play multiplayer games with, which is cool. Then there's this new peripheral, which is a Switch 2 camera that you have to buy separately. It doesn't come with it. Little gimmicky in my opinion. I think the camera quality is pretty low, and I think this is just a cheap $50 camera. So kind of curious. I believe I heard through the grapevine that you can actually connect your own camera. So if that's true, then that's really attractive as well. But other than that, the big thing is the games, right? So what games can you play on the Switch 2? That's a great question. Now, besides Mario Kart, my most anticipated is Donkey Kong. I'm a huge Donkey Kong fan. I'm the type of person that picks Donkey Kong in Mario Party. Um, and this is the first 3D Donkey Kong game, just like the first 3D Kirby game that you've played, Olia, right?
Yep, that was like my first intro to Kirby.
If Kirby Forgotten Lands, I believe is the name
Yes,
of it, right?
yes. Yep, in the Forgotten Land.
Yeah, that's
Most
like
people played like when they were little kids, but I got
mhm.
like an intro way late in life. But hey, still really enjoyed it, and now I'm a big time Kirby fan. So,
What do you like the most about Kirby though? Like what like why do you like Kirby so much? I got to know cuz Kirby is like a phenomenon.
he's an icon. He is iconic. The games are challenging, but not like crazy challenging. So like I'm having a fun time, not getting frustrated when I'm playing. Um, the graphics are beautiful in my opinion. The characters are all really, really cute. Like how can you not think that Kirby is cute? Um,
True. Just a
it's
pink
kind of like
ball.
action, adventure, not as much puzzle like Zelda games. Um, I also like Animal Crossing, but that one is just can be very slow. Kirby is a little bit more like fast paced and fun and action oriented, which it's like a good balance of everything for me personally.
Good points. And there's that Kirby. Kirby Air Riders. I think that's going to be the game for you for sure.
Definitely.
For me, Metroid Prime, that's a classic for me. Classic, cannot wait to experience that. It's been many years, over a decade since
There's the
experiencing that.
there's the Tamagotchi one too. Tamagotchi. Did I mispronounce it? Um,
Hmm.
that one's like very nostalgic.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it was in this presentation particularly, but they did
Touch on it.
announce that. Yeah, they did touch upon it. There was a number of games that were introduced: Street Fighter 6, Split Fiction, Hades 2, Borderlands 4. I think the biggest surprise is Final Fantasy 7 Remake getting on the Switch. And fun fact, it still isn't on the Xbox. So sorry, Xbox players, still not gonna have Final Fantasy 7, which is literally the reason why I got a PlayStation. So it's because of just this game right here. So, but then there's like games like Cyberpunk 2, which technically require a lot of power and performance. So that just kind of shows what you're getting with the Switch 2. Uh, Along with Hogwarts Legacy, which was an incredible game, being able to play that portably and being able to go on a plane and play that is really awesome too. Of course, Elden Ring. Uh, let's see. There's so many, so many. Hitman, Star Wars. The list kind of goes on, and I'm sure it's just going to get bigger and bigger as time goes on. So I don't think they are. Oh, there's that Tamagotchi right there, Tamagotchi
There it
Plaza.
is. Mm-hmm.
There it is. Uh, yeah, I really don't think anyone really has much to complain about. And I think the big selling point for me is, like I said, there are, I didn't have a Switch, right? There's tons of Switch games that I can play on the Switch 2 that I've never played before. So it's not like you can only play Switch 2 games on Switch 2. It's like, no, you can play your Nintendo Switch games and your Switch 2 exclusive games So I think that's huge. And you know, the last thing I want to cover. Oh yeah, also you can do only on the Switch too. By the way, you could get GameCube games digitally. So Nintendo Classics GameCube got announced, which is pretty epic to be honest, because GameCube has so many gems, so many gems. But to finish up this Warrior Circle here, we gotta go into the elephant of the room here, what everyone's talking about. So if you only looked at everything that we just showed right here, to any normal person, they'd be like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool. Like, I think I might get one, right?" And then they revealed more details that they decided to withhold from the public, away from their presentation. And basically, if I were to kind of show you all the big controversy here, basically they are pricing it at 449 as a starting point, and then 499 for the bundle with Mario Kart. Now, a lot of people might think, just from inflation purposes, like, okay, that's not too bad. Like the Nintendo Switch 1 launched in 2017, I believe, and I believe it was like 299, I believe. So if you look at it from an inflationary standpoint, it kind of adds up and makes sense. You know, almost 8 years ago, yeah, 8 years ago, only bumping it up about $150. Plus, you're getting a lot more tech inside of it. The big problem a lot of people are having is actually the game prices. So that's actually something that I do want to bring up and show as an example, before we go here, is the price for the Switch game. So what people are afraid of is that perhaps Nintendo might start a new trend. And the reason why they might start a new trend is with Mario Kart specifically. So with Mario Kart, their number one, arguably their number one best-selling Nintendo game, like, franchise of all time, they're pricing it at 79.99, so $80, which most games nowadays are 69.99. And a lot of people are very fearful that a lot of other companies are going to be pricing their games $10 higher. Now, if you're playing games, obviously it's an investment of your time, your resources, things like that. But, some people, like kids, for example, I remember when I was a kid, like, I was lucky to get a new game for $50 at the time. It was 49.99. And that was few and far between. That was like, if I'm lucky, every month or so, I'll be able to get a brand new game. So I'm looking at it like, from a kid's perspective, the parents buying these games for their kids, they're going to be looking at this price tag, right? The kids aren't buying it out of their own pocket. It's the parents. And remember, Nintendo is like the kid-friendly console. So how are parents going to react to this price increase? Does that make it less attractive, right? Knowing that, hey, I'm now paying more money for my kids' games. Not to mention, Mario Kart in particular, this is for the digital version. The physical version, if you want to get the cartridge and put it in your Switch, that's going to be $89.99. So people are a little skeptical. But what do you think, Olia?
Gosh, I can't say that I am the best person to ask in this realm, but any kind of price increase, nobody wants to see that. So that's always going to cause issues, upset folks. But I can imagine that if companies see Nintendo being successful, not seeing any issues with sales, why wouldn't they follow suit?
Yeah, they have the power, and they have they just know that it's gonna sell. I think that's the big thing. They know it's gonna sell, and they know
Yeah.
people are gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say that this is not the norm for everything. So there are, for example, Donkey Kong is 69.99. So quote unquote normal price. But a lot of these, a lot of people who are complaining about this are the ones that are just fearful of the trend that the gaming industry is going down, which is, possibly just copycatting, bad, money hatting, greedy corporate behavior, put it plain and simple. So I think the hardcore audience is very, very fearful and hesitant. It's We'll see what happens with the casual audience, like the parents who are buying these games for their kids, and buying Switches for the holidays and buying presents for other people, right? It's we'll see, but it just seems like the demand is there. I think there was about 1.5 million people watching the stream on YouTube
Oh
for
wow.
Nintendo. And that's just one place. It was streamed globally, and there was like global streams unique to each country. So there are millions and millions of people that are interested. It's just a matter of, you know, your lifestyle and what you want to enjoy. And if the Switch is the place that you love to play, then great. Or if not, it's 4.99 for a bundle. You can also get a PS5, right? You could play games on other platforms, or Steam Deck. I think is another option, for like a mobile PC, essentially. But yeah, so that is basically all we wanted to cover here. We just briefly wanted to go over the recent events with Nintendo, as well as go over a brief overview of our warrior classes. If you want to dive deeper into everything that we covered here today, again, please visit our website at fitnessfantasyrpg.com. Again, feel free to set up a free bronze tier membership and dive into all of our resources, our free to play resources. And of course, if you want to learn more about the Nintendo Switch 2, again, feel free to basically dive into probably YouTube, IGN, or any other place where you get your news. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it, so I'm sure you can find it in a lot of places. But that's it for today. I hope you feel a little bit more inspired to at least explore other different training styles and possibly pick a class when you're focusing on your health and fitness journey. If you're ready to unlock your ultimate warrior potential and experience real world transformation, level up your strength, resilience, and mastery, again, feel free to join us at Infinite. Remember, this is the Warrior Circle, your weekly quest for growth, challenge, and epic adventure. I'm Walt, your wizard guide by your side on this infinite journey. As always, conquer the day, warrior, and join us next week for another epic quest. We have an exciting topic next week. We're going to have all of our warrior community back again. We're going to have an awesome conversation, so get excited, and looking forward to seeing you next week. This is Master Wizard Walt out, and Olia, our Operation Sorceress. See y'all later. Conquer the day, warrior.